if it didn't, you don't die. You know,
you live on, and honestly, you'll probably be even more valuable for that next
exactly.
company.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. Super excited to dive in. He's the founder of Rise Market Group, Ben Lund. Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Kirby, thanks so much for having me here.
Absolutely. So, I know you have a diverse background and you worked for several different companies, including Google. So what made you take the leap from Google to start your own marketing firm? That seems like a pretty big step.
It was a big, it was a little bit of a step there. But it stemmed from even prior to Google, pretty much throughout my professional career, even when I was at Yahoo. And this was like, I always joke with folks, is like, this was when Yahoo was a Google, where people went to Yahoo to explore the internet and search for things. Obviously, Google took over since then. Yeah. But even then, I always had just something inside me wanted to build something and to have full ownership of something. But I never knew what that was. So I was just continuing on my career in digital marketing and advertising, work at some great companies, including Yahoo and Google. And then eventually I'm like, well, Ben, you don't need to actually have your own shop, or it could just be the service that you learned over the years. And then I just, it hit late 30s. I'm like, you know what? If I'm ever going to do this, now's probably a good time, because otherwise you wait a couple more years and it's easy to build up excuses. And I never wanted to have regret. Where it's one day I'm 70, I'm like, oh, I wish I really tried that. I'd rather try it. Worst case scenario, you go right back in, you work for another big company. And so yeah, it was a lot of things. It wasn't just like an overnight, but it was just something, I guess, burning inside of me that I really wanted to explore.
I love that, Ben. And I tell you, I encourage people that all the time. And I think you're exactly right. I think that we've been built sometimes to avoid failure at all costs. And it really does cost us, some real experience, because it's, Rise, I'm sure, is going to have amazing success and probably already has. But, if it didn't, you don't die. You
live on. And honestly, you'll probably be even more valuable for that next company, because 100%. Let's say you're stuck in a position, you could move on, you're like, screw it, I can do it myself. And even as an employer ourselves, if I see someone with entrepreneurship, I'm now knowing what it takes, like, they put them in a whole different ball game right over here. So
yeah, that's really cool. So let's talk about that, because you've had both experiences. What's the benefit of running your own company versus working at a large company like Google or Yahoo?
Yeah, so there's not a best answer for everyone. It's not like, oh, you have to work for Google or you have to be an entrepreneur. It's whatever you're feeling. Pros on both sides. So for me, I mean, I've only lived this life once, so I can't give other perspectives, but for me, it was really nice working for these big companies earlier on in my career, because I don't have an MBA, undergraduate business and everything. But in my experience, it seems like working in these larger organizations is almost an MBA in of itself, because they have the people, super talented people, they have the processes, and just like they train you how to approach different challenges and opportunities. And there's so much training that comes in that, even whether they are intentful on this or not, comes out of it. But then you have that great foundation, and then you bring that into an entrepreneurial setting. Totally. I feel like you are in a really good setting. So, pros of working at a big organization, they just give you so much training, and so it's just so much to support you, and resume builder. But then entrepreneurship, I mean, that is also a resume builder and that its own training. But, it's nice to having a base. But I love entrepreneurship just because if you see an opportunity, you can go for it. You don't have to ask permission. You don't have to build a business case. You don't have to, when I was at Google and other companies like Yahoo, I could only control so much opportunity. I had a couple accounts I managed, and that was great. but I couldn't be like, ooh, here's a big opportunity, I want to go for that. Like for me to do that, it's almost too much effort. It's so demotivating. I'm like, it's not going to happen. So don't even try. It sounds
Right.
bad. But if you're an entrepreneur, like this podcast opportunity came out, I was like, hey, you should chat with Kurt. I'm like, awesome, love that. Let's do it. Like you don't even think, you just go.
Yeah.
What's working, you keep on working. What's not, you cut. And if there's something in the middle, how can you make it a little bit better?
Yeah, I like that. And it reminds me, so I always think if I were a young person wanting to start a restaurant, I'm like, man, you got to go work at some of these franchises for exactly that reason. They're going to train you. They're going to show you processes that then you can, use that information to kind of grow the business that you want to create. So I think that's super interesting. Now, I mean, obviously you're working with clients now, growing your own business. So where do you see marketing going? Like in 2023 beyond, where do you see this heading?
Super interesting question. Don't have all the answers, but if looking at past, I've been in advertising over the past 15 years. And this was the days I joked around earlier, like when Yahoo was at Google, and doing search ads was a very manual process. And you had these bulk sheets of Excel spreadsheets of like 250,000 rows, and like super manual to do. And it's pretty much what's happening is just it's going easier, more automation and more machine learning with pretty much almost every industry.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's going to go with more machine learning. But it's interesting. So you could almost argue it's like, okay, we're going into more machine learning. Does that make agencies obsolete? I don't think so. It actually makes them even more valuable, because to run these types of campaigns that require a lot of solid data and insight, and someone like managing these controls, you need to be very skilled and know what you're doing, because you could easily give some bad inputs to a campaign that's running on machine learning, which most campaigns are, and it'll go in the totally wrong direction that you want it to go. So, but yeah, I mean, just as I'm seeing, I'm sure you're seeing this as well, just automation, machine learning, AI, and it's super exciting. It's super exciting.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's funny, I asked you to put the Nostradamus hat on, and for what it's worth, I hate that because it's so hard because, if we all knew, we'd all be bajillionaires because we would have, created that next thing. But it is interesting to kind of think through sort of those next steps. So final question for you, Ben, this has been fun. So you've obviously just taken a big leap, and that's cool. So what's your best advice to help people grow in their business and or their personal life? What's some good advice you have?
Yeah. So the best advice I could give right now, and there's so many great advices. There's just like so many tips that can be helpful, but I would say just be intentional with whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, whether it's in your personal life or in your business. So in your business, be intentional. Like, what is your goal? Do you have a thriving business? You're like, I want a better life-work balance. Okay, focus on that. Do you want more clients? What kind of clients? Okay, focus in on that. Or your personal life. What do you want to improve on it? You can't just say, I want to improve my personal life. Like, do you want better relationships? Do you want to improve your health? And then just whatever it is, be intentional and understand that there's time limitations in every day and every week. So just focus on those key things that is going to drive the most amount of happiness, whether business and personal life. And, I give this advice. So, but I'm sure like other side of bed and be like, Ben, but you don't do that all the time. So it's easier to give than actually do. But I feel like I try to do that. So I would just say be intentional with whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and just focus in on that. And then you'll get some nice results versus just like, I want to grow my business. Like, okay, well, that sounds like a big ask. Like, where should you start?
Right. No, I think that's really, Ben, I think that's actually great. I find myself saying the words be intentional a lot, because I think for so many people, life just happens to them. Right. And then they wonder why their life looks the same in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. It's because they haven't been intentional. They haven't created it on purpose. And so I think that's great advice. Well, dude, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.
Don't